Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. And joining us for our executive spotlight this evening is Andrea Pass, who gets people on TV. So she's a founder of Andrea Pass Public Relations and created public relations campaigns for just about every product category you can imagine. And she uses a public relations model to secure coverage for clients in media outlets from NBC to ABC to MSNBC and Passage to Profit. So welcome, Andrea. I also want to point out that Andrea, as part of her participation in the show, made a charitable donation to the Fisher Center of Alzheimer's Research Foundation. So thank you very much for that. I'm sure that the charity will appreciate the contribution that you made. And welcome to Passage to Profit.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us about the PR world. What's going on there these days?
It's fascinating because so many people misunderstand public relations because you have public relations, you have advertising, you have marketing. But public relations grows a brand by securing earned media, meaning not pay for play advertising. In advertising, you pay for something and it increases eyeballs. But in public relations, you are building trust, growing trust with different audiences to actually build your reputation, build that awareness, grow yourself or your business in thought leadership, and ultimately drive sales. So, public relations is interesting because as human beings, we are consuming about 11 hours a day of content, from TV to podcasts to reading articles online to reading a hard copy magazine. And so, why shouldn't every business find a way to be in that media content and to be able to use that media content over and over again to keep themselves relevant in our crowded world?
Well, I think they should be. and I know we've wondered in the past, until we got more familiar with the media world, how do these people get on these TV shows? Well, they find somebody like you, and it's a process, though, to get on NBC, right? Or ABC.
Exactly. With everything, it's a process. Nothing happens overnight. Someone sent me an email the other day. Someone wanted to hire me for one day to get them top tier television, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And I said, anyone who is going to take your money is lying to you. No one's getting you that in one day. It's a process of pitching, knowing how to pitch the media, knowing how to follow up, and knowing how to form a story. And the same way as Neer was discussing the creativity and what is actually creative and new and innovative, the same holds true in public relations, that I work with my clients to come up with the right angle that's going to work. And not everything is going to be for the Today Show. There are many TV stations around the country, local stations, regional stations, online video content stations that might work better for you and your product and your audience, because we're all buyers at different parts of our lives. But public relations helps drive that buy, drive that sale.
I was just going to say, I have had the opportunity to be on the Today Show before with some fitness stuff that I've done with a few brands. It's a very nerve-wracking experience. And I had no previous TV experience in the past. So I would say to you, what are some tips or some advice you would give to somebody who's new to the PR space, who's never been on TV before, so they would feel comfortable and confident and make a good impression?
The most important element when you're conducting a public relations campaign, and when you find that right public relations professional to work with you, because when you have an outside PR person, that makes your business look even larger. So even if you're a solopreneur, having an outside PR firm is going to help you. But you have to get your messaging down. You can't go into an interview without knowing what you want to say and understanding what are the points of the targeted audience. So in today's targeted audience of entrepreneurs, we need to then talk to the entrepreneur. We're not talking to the billion-dollar, 4,000 employee business right now. And I think you need to know the audience. So before you do an interview, whether it's on national television or a podcast or a blog or a newspaper, is understand what is the point you want to get across. And it can't be sales. It has to be editorial content, because these sites and these media outlets are all about editorial content, not about you going on and saying, I want to sell my widget or my piece of cookware. you want to go on and say, this is the reason I've done this is to bring this, that, and the other thing to an audience. So in your case, when you were talking about fitness, you were offering fitness tips. I also say practice. Practice makes perfect. It's hokey, but it's the truth. And when you're doing an interview and you've been placed by a public relations person, take some time to practice, whether you're recording yourself on your phone or you're talking to yourself in the mirror. And make eye contact with yourself. It's an awkward thing to do, but it will make you more comfortable and you'll get the message out. And don't oversell. Say your point and then let someone ask the next question. So those are some tips for when you're doing interviews, whether it's on TV or any other person who might interview you.
So, Andrew, what's the media landscape like now in some of the bigger publishers, the Inks and the Fast companies? How are you guys placing articles and editorial there?
Right. And I think we're in a very weird world right now with the pandemic, and most of these media outlets have gone to freelance writers. So a lot of the staff has been eliminated. No one is in a building, so it's not as simple to reach them. I'm a telephone person, and I love picking up the phone and pitching a story. And the clients of Andrea Pass Public Relations know that, and I miss that. So now it's a pitch and it's an email pitch. So there are opportunities to reach freelancers at those types of media outlets that you were mentioning, Near, and also opening up and recognizing there are many other media outlets to be had. So just because you think that that story belongs in Inc., it can also be in your statewide business magazine or newspaper, and you can get more of an audience there. It can also be in a national trade magazine that's reaching targeted audiences. So my job is to help navigate that field and make those recommendations to my clients and pitch and place, pitch and place, pitch and place.
Well, that's great advice. So if an entrepreneur can't afford a PR agent, what are some of the things that they can do themselves to help up their game a bit?
Well, first off, know your messaging. So, what's the message and what's the story? It can't be that I want to sell myself as a business coach. I was talking to someone earlier today who actually gives tips for introverts. So come up with those tips for introverts because there are a lot of people who are introverts. So know your story first, then determine where you'd like to talk to someone. And for now, skip the Ellens and the Wall Street Journals of the world and find something local or in your space, your category, and get in touch with someone at that media outlet with your thought for an interview or a story. If you could target your story to something happening, such as how to hold a holiday dinner remotely during pandemic times with great recipes, then use an angle that's targeted to something happening soon. We're getting ready for New Year, New You. What are some tips for health, wellness, business in the new year? So if you have something that could be targeted and be realistic, our our consumer media space is crowded with COVID, politics, BLM, fires, weather. There are so many issues to remember that find the right person that will cover yours, but don't hound the press. Write a short email, 3 paragraphs or less. Have a catchy subject line. Follow up in 3, 4 weeks. If you don't hear back from them, stop, find another media outlet, move on.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And one thing I kind of want to go back to, because this is something that Kenya has told us from the very beginning. She obviously had a lot more media experience than we did when we started this, but radio especially, but everything likes a good story. So we do try to find people for this show that have a story behind what they're doing. And people love that. They love that personal feel.
I totally agree. There can't just be something that sales. There has to be a reason that you came to this. And it's interesting. I was mentioning before to someone that I'm on the board of the United Inventors Association of America. It's a nonprofit group that works with inventors. And I work with a lot of inventors, and their backstories are fascinating. And right now, I'm working with an inventor. She's a single mom in Austin, Texas, and she tinkered, and her dad tinkered, and now her go hang it picture hanging gadget is available at homedepot.com because of all the press that we were able to secure for her. So Home Depot recognized that she was relevant and she was out there. And so I say to inventors, find that something that's out there for you because you can create more. It's not about the article, it's about the next step in the article. So those backstories help tremendously. I'm working right now with an entrepreneur who created a vegetable or fruit based pancake and waffle mix. It's called Kicker Feast. The woman is originally from Barbados, and she was juicing and wanted to give her son carrot juice. And he's a young kid. He didn't want the carrot juice. So she threw it in the pancake batter. The son asked for more. So she ended up going back to school. She was an accountant. She also had a law degree. She went back to school for culinary to learn how to make her own pancake mix with flavors so that you taste the flavor and the pancakes are the color of the flavor. So the blueberry pancakes are blue. And here she is. Her backstory is the whole reason for her business. If it wasn't for her son not wanting that carrot juice, it never would have turned into carrot pancakes. So those
Wow.
backstories make great press interviews and great stories because there's more to you than a website. There's more to your business. There's that backstory. And I know that having been in the public relations field, as long as I've been in the public relations field, people love to hear the story of how I started at the CBS radio division in New York City. But the stories of who I'm working with now through Andrea Pass Public Relations are the stories they really love and resonate with them because I'm working with so many solopreneurs that are looking for their piece of the pie.
Well, that's just fantastic, Andrea. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the segment, but it's just absolutely fascinating journey. And it really makes me think about how important public relations can be and how it can even help solopreneurs. Normally, I think of public relations as being part of a big corporate department or, very expensive and unattainable. But I appreciate that you're working with entrepreneurs, and I think the tips that you've given them this evening are just fantastic.
I want to say one more thing. So we did have Sherry Hammond with Go Hang It on Passage to Profit, thanks to you.
Thank
And
you.
what I tell people that come on the show is as soon as you've been on the show, you can take this logo from iHeartRadio and put it on your website because you've been on iHeartRadio in Manhattan and surrounding areas. And so you can use that as part of your media creds, which is pretty important, right?
And exactly, you hit the nail on the head. Public relations placements can be reused and reused and reused. And that's what I remind my clients. If this interview appears tomorrow, sure, post it on your social tomorrow and tag the right media outlet and people, but post it again in 3 months and in 6 months and in 8 months because the average reader of the content is not going to remember that they saw it, or it's a new person absorbing that content. So public relations and social media content go hand in hand. So make sure you're doing those things because then your PR placement was a one and done. Doesn't have to be. I still go ahead. My placement of a lifetime was ABC 2020, a double segment about inventors and pitching and how inventors do that. To this day, that was about 7 years ago. Every once in a while, I post it on my social media, and nobody knows that it was that long ago. They're finding an interesting story about your company. So reuse your press over and over again. And that's an important tip for every single entrepreneur out there.
Well, that's very good. So thank you very much, Andrea. It's been fascinating talking with you. And we'll be right back after this message.